a lot. A lot has gotten us here. But one of the most amazing things is that this entire time, your whole entire life, you have been creating a reality and you have been creating a life that you didn't even know you were. So, right off the hop, right where we are, right in this moment of now, notice that throughout your entire life, you've been daydreaming. Notice these daydreams where you can actually visualize and feel and see yourself in a moment of time that is existing right now, because time doesn't exist. Time is a construct of this reality. And in this moment, you're daydreaming. Maybe you see yourself on a beach. Maybe you see yourself in a new house. Maybe you see yourself as a teacher. Maybe you see yourself as traveling and working remotely. All of those daydreams that you've had your entire life was you, okay, was you going into a reality that is happening right now. But then what happens? All of a sudden, the mind comes in and literally cuts your flower, cuts you, and tells you why you can't, how, should, need to, all the things as to why this can't be real. But then notice how your entire life you could consistently see these quote unquote daydreams, and you just thought that they were a daydream. No, they were you accessing your vision, accessing your knowing, accessing your creation. So let's break this down so you can fully understand yourself. Now imagine you're a flower, okay? Which I consistently say all the time because that is the truth of who we are. Our flower, when we understand ourselves, when we understand the energy of that of which we are planted roots down into this garden, and our roots spread out to the left and to the right. Notice it. Your roots are healthy, they're growing, they're expanding, and then all of that soil, all of those nutrients, they shoot all the way up into your stem, your portal, hit you right here, and then you bloom. And your portal supports your bloom. Your bloom goes out into your creation, into your field, into your garden. Previously, and where many of the planet is still working to get themselves out of and is quote unquote stuck, is the other garden. That garden that we were born into, our flower was upside down. Our blooms were sitting in the soil with the soil on top of our blooms, which is our creation. Take that in. And then our portal, our stem was ass up. Our roots were ass up into the air. So when you look at that, an upside down flower with the roots up, all the energy, okay, all of the energy from your creation field and everybody else is coming into your portal, into your stem and fucking shit up, okay? That then piles, all that energy piles down to your bloom and stops you from actual creation. The only way you create your reality and you create your life on that side is through external. You need to externally do things. You need to literally hustle, pull it in. It's a whole harder energy because it's coming from outside of you. It's the law of attraction. All of that works over there. We've become masters in that, have we not? We've become so masterful in creating over here, but it never stays. We can never stabilize. It never is a consistent state of being over there because it can't, because your stem is not in the soil. So we have spent our entire life as upside down flowers over on this left-hand side, and then that feeds our victim, our poor me, our fears, our doubts, all the things. So now this garden on the right, where you are planted down into the soil, that garden exists on the planet. That is the garden that is on the planet now. That is the garden in which we energetically are planted into. The work that is taking place now is you recognizing, accepting, and admitting where you're on the left-hand side garden, upside down, trying to manage and create and sustain a reality that is not coming from you. It's coming from external factors. It's coming from everything stabilizing you versus you understanding that you are so powerful and so unreal that you can create your reality when you understand your roots. So if we go back to these daydreams that you have been experiencing your entire life, however you want to label them or call them, of course you have been, because your bloom has been in the soil. So you've been seeing them, but you did not know how to create them into reality. You did not know how to create them and sustain them. You can see how some of your daydreams, some of your visions, some of your knowings have taken place in that garden, but they have not sustained. And if they still exist, they exist around an external stabilization versus an internal stabilization. Meaning, if you all of a sudden had a dream to open up a restaurant, okay, and you did that on the left-hand side of the garden, great. You're living your daydream, your vision, your knowing, but it is not coming from the inside because all the external factors now are what are stabilizing it. You're constantly stressed about sales. You're constantly stressed about X, Y, and Z. Everything external is the soil that's packing onto the bloom in order for the flower to feel stabilized and create. And if you're somebody who has, made things happen in your life, you can really see this, where you have that amazing talent, whatever it is, and you start this, say, business, or you start this dream, or you start this marriage, or whatever the case it is in your specific life. And then all of a sudden, as the months, years go on, you start feeling dead inside and you need more and more and more outside of you to stabilize this flower. This is why. Because you created it from upside down, not from the right way up. So there is two categories of people that are experiencing things right now. Either you live in the left-hand side garden and you have never, ever, ever felt the right-hand side garden. So meaning you just constantly live in that left hand and then you look over and your daydreams are over here in this right-hand side garden and you're like, must be nice. Someday when I have X and YZ money, or when this happens or that happens or whatever, and you don't trust yourself, you don't believe in yourself, and you certainly don't believe that your daydreams are real. You think they're imagination, you think that they're fake. They're not. You're accessing this right-hand side garden, the truth of you, okay? I really want you to feel that. You've been accessing that right-hand side of your garden your entire life, okay? Many people access that, but they bring it in on the left-hand side. Is that fucking wrong? Okay, if you're somebody who's living something that you accessed on the right-hand side, maybe you have your dream house, you have your kids, whatever the case may be, it's not wrong. It just means that you're awesome, that you did things unknowingly to you, but now you get to choose to move over here on the right-hand side and stabilize and maintain and keep blooming from the truth you are, instead of being so terrified of losing the external and it defining you. Because when you live over on the right-hand side and your roots are in the soil, if you have the house, if you have the kids, if you have the dream job, you learn how to sustain yourself and feel fulfillment by being the right way up instead of being so terrified that you're going to lose this. Okay, this is category number 1, just to help your mind understand. The next category is a lot of people who have been accessing and living on this right-hand side, okay? Where you can see things, you can understand things, you're creating things, you just maybe don't have the language as to how you know what you know. And, I've heard so many examples of this, myself including, and I'll use me so that we can use it. When I was a fashion designer, everybody would say, okay, Coco, like, what is the next thing that you're going to put out? Or what is this? Or what are you going to do? And I would always say, I don't worry about it. It's going to come to me. I was living in that right-hand side of the garden. I have a brother who at 17 years old built a beautiful, huge house. And everybody would be like, how does he know this? How does he this? He also lived on this side of the garden because we could see it. We could access it. We were able to access the realities of when the house was already done and see it in order to make it. Same with me. I was able to all of a sudden access the clothes, the shirt, the whatever, when it was already done and then create it. So if I sat here and I was like, oh, I wonder what I should design for fall, I didn't have to worry about it because I was able to access the moment in reality where the hoodie was already designed and it was a good seller, and I was able to create it. Lived my entire life this way. I just thought everybody lived this way. So it was a huge shock to me when I realized that not everybody lives this way. You're either one of these two. So if we use me, I was able to access everything on this right-hand side of the garden, but I couldn't fucking stay there. I couldn't fucking stay there because the second I accessed it, the second I built the hoodie and did the thing, the left-hand side of the garden, the upside down version of the flower is where I sustained and where I lived. And it would come in with fears, with doubts, with I need it more and more and more and more external. Otherwise, I'm going to lose what I have discovered about myself and what I could do on the right-hand side. I was so fucking terrified of losing what I was doing on the right-hand side. And in the quote-unquote end, I lost it all. I made the choice to give it all up because I was literally being sucked fucking dry from the left-hand side, listening to something outside of me versus listening to myself. If I would have met me back then, everything would have changed for me because I would have understood why the fuck everything felt so hard, why I was seeing all these things. I had all these great ideas. People loved everything I put out, but why was I feeling like shit? Why did I feel like I was dying? Because I was constantly being pulled over to the upside down flower and not understanding myself. So that upside down flower over in that garden, you live in your wounds. You live it. It's a state of being. Your wounds run the show. You live from a voice outside of you that isn't you. In the right-hand side garden, you have consciousness. You have awareness. You see your wounds and you make choices to do the opposite. Over here, you understand and you've accepted that you're a flower, and you literally do everything to maintain the soil in which you are in, okay? You literally, everything you do is to manage and sustain the soil in which you're in because you know your soil is your creation. On the left-hand side, you don't even give two fucks about your soil. Everything is about externally stabilizing the stem, because the stem is naked, upside down, and your blooms are in the soil. So you're so focused on how your stem feels, what you can get into your stem. You're so focused on your portal because it's constantly being shit on and dumped in, and you don't understand yourself. So there's two different categories. Notice where you're at, and maybe you're in a bit of both. The work now and why we're alive is getting and understanding and accepting who you are on the right-hand side and seeing a mile away the left-hand crusty, gross, upside-down flower garden and actually applying consciousness to it and being like, I am fucking done. I was born into that. I could go over there. I could sit in my stories. I can sit in my traumas. I can sit in my fears. You know it well. That's a whole state of being. But what do you do in that garden? You spin left and right, left and right, left and right. The mind controls over there. The mind dims the visions over there. The mind asks all the questions. It wants the understanding. It cannot accept that daydreams and visions do not come from the mind. Okay? When you live over here on the right-hand side, you all of the sudden, if we use me again as the example, you see this hoodie. I saw this hoodie. So I created it in density. I designed it. I made it. The mind over here is like, how, what, is that going to sell? What's the fabric? Da, 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 da. Me over here, I see the vision. I create the vision. I listen to myself. I have an understanding about it. Where I fucked myself, and where I know a lot of you can see it, is I would see the hoodie, start creating it, listen to myself, and then all of the sudden the addiction, because I was a hardcore addict to pain, would see that garden over there and be like, well, I'm just going to go back over there and, take my drugs and get my highs. And then I would start fucking listening to everything outside of me. Well, this isn't going to sell. This fabric isn't good enough. Whatever the case may be. And I gave into the logic, into the mind. What is the mind? The mind is fear. The mind is fear. The whole purpose of the mind is to operate from fear. If you have fear, then you never create. You just can't. You cannot be in fear and trust at the same time. Okay? You can't. You have to pick one. On the left-hand side in that garden, okay, you are run by the mind, which is run by the program. What is the program? The program is literally AI. It is literally artificial intelligence. We came into this body of form on this planet knowing that we are in a robot. Okay? We knew that we were coming into this body that is ran by artificial intelligence. So just breathe, because the mind wants to understand this. The mind wants to argue this, whatever. However it resonates to you, take it or leave it. Just feel my words. We came into this body of form knowing that it was run by a computer program. Okay? This computer program has its defaults for you that will ignite the fears. So right now, this robot's whole purpose right now is to get your mind fucking going, okay? About a future that's a lie, about a past that's already happened, pulling it into the present, and then allowing that mind to all of the sudden bleed into your emotional body. So all of the sudden, whatever the fear is from the past, whatever the lie and the fear is from the future, it's pulling it in, and your mind is going like this. And then because this robot is you and is so freaking intelligent, it knows exactly which buttons to push to invoke an emotional response in your body, which then creates this like, and then your physical body all of the sudden goes into frozen, goes into the same patterns and behaviors that it's always gone into, so that what happens? So that you then are stuck on the left-hand side garden and you have excuses coming out of your yin-yang. It's a downward spiral within yourself. And then all of the sudden, what do? It's everyone else's fault but you. In the left-hand side garden, it's like, this person, this is the reason why my life is this way. I can blame it, all the things. Then you don't have to look at yourself, Because if you are not aware of yourself and you don't have to look at yourself, great! Oh my God, the robot loves that. Why? Because if everyone else is to blame, then you are not aware of yourself and the robot continues to run you. The robot continues to stop you. And that's awesome because that's what this energy wants. It does not want you to be self-aware. It does not want you to be conscious. Because if you're conscious, which is happening right now in this amazing freaking energy, then all of the sudden, and let's just take a moment together and do this. Imagine you're standing in a garden, a beautiful garden, see it. It's all growing and all the flowers are starting to bloom and you're so proud of yourself because you have listened to your knowings, you have followed your vision, you have seen these daydreams, and all of a sudden you're like, this is who I want to be. This is how I want to live. I'm standing in this garden. I'm making these choices. I'm taking the action. I feel good about this. I know that this is right for me. Cue robot. See it as like the Star Wars robot, however you see it for you, and it walks into your garden. And then all of a sudden, that robot starts going like this. And it starts spewing all the things to you. And if you are not self-aware, and you don't want to look at your stories, and you don't even see all of this over, because you're so stuck in, pointing the fingers at everyone else, not yourself, what does that robot do? What I just explained. Your mind takes over, your emotional body freezes, your emotional body creates a response, and then your physical freezes and goes into the patterns and the habits. And before you know it, you're frustrated as to why the fuck you're over here. Back again in this dry fucking garden. You're frustrated. Why are you frustrated? Because you were just about to consciously see the robot. And when you actually consciously use this imagery, if you need, as soon as you hear the mind start going, all of a sudden, notice it, your eyes for the very first time, look at that robot and you're like, wait a minute. You're not real. I am not this robot. And feel that in this moment. Let's just do this. Feel this. Wait a second. I'm not the robot. What do you mean? I'm not the robot. This entire time, however old you are, in linear time, you spent your whole life scared of the robot. Scared of what the robot is labeling off to you. Coco, the percentage of error for X, Y, and Z fear to happen. And Coco's like, okay, yeah, reading what the robot's saying, fucking facts that I don't even know where they're coming from, stories that I don't even know that are coming from. I have listened to them and made them my reality until today. Because when you see this robot, all of a sudden that whole conscious knowing in your body is like, wait a minute, I am not this robot. This isn't me. And the robot begins to glitch. It begins to blow up. It begins to dismantle. Why? Because you have applied conscious thought to the robot. And the robot has been so scared of you finding out about it. But isn't it fucking mind-blowing that you have spent your whole life scared of the robot? Because you thought that what the robot was saying was you. You thought that what the robot was saying was your truth. Because the robot shuts down your feeling center. If you cannot feel, all you do is you live a very logical mind, robotic life. You don't feel. If you don't feel, you don't create. You don't access the realities that are already existing. You just sit in the fucking bullshit. What is the purpose of the robot? What is the purpose of all of this? To ruin your fucking life. I know that sounds harsh, because why? Why? Because then they can control you. Because that's why you came here. You knew at the bare minimum that you were here to have an experience in life. You knew that you were here to be a creator of life. That is why you are here. That is your birthright. But we forgot. We thought this entire time that all these people that have money or success or live a certain way or whatever it is, that they're special, that they're doing something, that they hustled, that they did all this. And granted, they very well did. But they're not sustaining it and creating it from the powerful place in which we are. So if our feelings can be shut down, if we believe that our daydreams, our knowings, our visions are false and that they can't happen, then all of those just sit on a shelf. And isn't that sad? Do you know, just take that in for a moment right now, how many people have left this body of form, literally died in this timeline, with all of the books on the shelf because they were too scared, too fucking scared to open up the book of themselves and to read and to action and to create the wisdom inside of them. Can you imagine the inventions, the creativity, the art, the beauty, the everything that is in each and every single one of you? And literally, we have put that on a shelf. You're putting it on a shelf right now. You are, because you haven't even touched who you are and what is available and the impact that you have from just being yourself and how alive you feel by being the garden in the right-hand side. Who would you be? One of my favorite lines my whole entire life. If you knew you wouldn't fail. If you weren't scared. If you fucking understood yourself, who would you be? What would you do? We limit ourselves so freaking much because we don't believe it's true. And who doesn't believe? Who doesn't believe it's true? The robot. The robot. You are not this robot. Take that in and feel that. Close your eyes if you need to and see yourself as a beautiful flower, however you see that flower. And see that flower stuck inside a robot. So that flower is looking around being like, I'm a robot. No, you're a fucking flower. A flower is creation itself. Okay? Take this in. Take this in. I was chatting with somebody yesterday, and man, I cried. Because I just love this story so much and I'm sharing it so much because it needs to be shared so that you can see it in yourself. And this person is sharing with me about this house. Okay, they bought a new house. And for years and years and years, her husband, casually or whenever he had shared it with her, was like, I can see myself on that porch. I can see myself, living in that house. She didn't think anything of it because, let's be honest, she was living on the left-hand side being like, that's a nice daydream, that's a nice thing, but I don't know the how or whatever the case may be for her, okay? For her personally, she heard what her husband was saying, but did she intake it? Most likely, it's his thing. She sees it, cool. All of the sudden, one day, he finds out that that house is available. He calls the bank, he goes in for a showing, and within days, they're signing the papers and they have this house. She later finds out that he had been, saving for this house. And on paper, there should be no reason why their offer for this house was accepted. Because if somebody was trying to make more money or whatever the case may be with that, they wouldn't have accepted their offer. They would have allowed for there to be multiple bids to take the highest bidder. So she's sharing this with me and saying, Coco, like on paper, logically, like we shouldn't be in this house. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So then I get the imagery and I say to her, here's what happened. So really listen to this because you can see it inside yourself. Her husband had a vision. Her husband had a daydream of him standing on that porch, him wanting that house. So if you look at it as his garden, he planted a seed in his garden 5 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever the case may be. And he watered this garden by taking the action of putting some money away for this house. There was no proof, and there was no stability, and there was no actual true tangible information that he was going to get this house. But yet he watered that seed until one day, all of a sudden, he finds out that that house is available and that flower is now fully grown and it is bloomed. It is bloomed. So he calls the bank, he takes the action, he cuts the flower. He cuts the flower. It's time to cut the flower. He then goes to the showing, which means he puts the flower in the vase. Okay, take this in the vase of the owner, the portal of the owner. And who signed the agreement? He did. Who accepted the offer? He did. Because he was a creator of his reality. So when it didn't make sense of how this happened, logically it shouldn't have happened, energetically this is what happened. And this person is unconscious and has no idea they did that. So this is somebody who did this from the left-hand side garden. So imagine what this person could do if they understood themselves and did it from the roots. So if you look at this, it's like he was able to cut the flower and put it into the vase, meaning the other person was also upside down. So their roots were manipulated. That's not a bad thing, okay? Like the word manipulated. It just means that this person energetically got what they wanted because they were in both sides of the garden. Now it's just going to take work to, as I shared before, stabilize, appreciate, live in the moment for the house and everything that they have, and not searching and working and hustling and breaking themselves down in order to keep this. Do you see? Such an amazing example. You've been doing this too. Notice your life, whether you've had small little pockets of it, whatever it be, when you can look and be like, I shouldn't be here, this shouldn't happen, how did this unfold? Because you did this. You did this. And it was always done from the left-hand side of the garden. Humanity lived in the left-hand side of the garden. That's what you need to understand. We just literally energetically switched to the right-hand side of the garden. The world isn't there yet. The world isn't physically living in this garden yet, only energetically. So that is this wobble back and forth with inside yourself, because you can't hide from the fact that you are in this left-hand side garden and that the mind is trying to drive you nuts and control this journey. The mind is not real, okay? The work is to understand that it is trying to control you. When you see it as the robot, it literally will change your life, because now you're at this space, okay? And we're moving into July, August, and September, wherever you find this. Now we're at this space where our bloom is spreading out like this, and we are literally creating. So anytime this robot is fucking blasting at you, it's literally seeing it how you want to see it. If you need to get a laser gun, if you need to own it, but you have to apply consciousness. You cannot just apply the words. You have to apply the feeling. meaning I am not doing this, and literally commanding the energy over into this garden, not sitting and feeding this on any level. Commanding the garden, commanding the energy over here. I'm not doing it. And when you actually consistently apply it, things start to change. Things start to happen. When you understand who you are and everything about you is just like, I just want to create from this side of the garden, you are going to feel so alive. You are going to glow. You are going to grow. Because you do not need anything outside of yourself, because you understand that you are a flower in this soil. And when you understand how to listen and not be blocked, okay, key word, not be blocked by the mind, you are going to get everything that you need. But you have to understand yourself. This cannot be done logically. This has to be done energetically. You have to understand who you are. And it's not hard. But the easiest way to do it right now is the fact that you're here. You're watching this, or you're listening to this on our podcast. Come on to our Instagram. Let me find what the exact tag is so that I can say it properly. _the.7.stars. _the.7.stars. Come and read all the stuff. I am downloading so much information, have consistently for 5 years, to help you follow a life of your dreams and understand it. Prior, we were living in the program. This world, we got to do, the Marvel movie work. We got to live and embody the program to understand it from the inside out. You don't have to. You don't have to go through that. You get to come right over here to this garden. You get to grow. You get to glow. You get to understand how to create and manifest your life. If you were somebody who met us and got to do work in the embodiment of the program, come back and learn how to create. You're going to fly. You are going to fucking fly now. You are going to literally feel so fucking alive because you know the contrast of what life felt like in the program. What life felt like to live in your wounds, to live in your stories and see it and click it and just build your beautiful life that you came here to do. Fear is a planetary body of energy. Okay, so how it looks like, and I saw this yesterday and I love it so much, and I'm going to share. It looks like the planet has a Santa belt. Okay, it looks like, Santa with his big black belt has a Santa belt wrapped all around the planet. Okay, now what's so freaking amazing is even a year ago, it looks like a year and a half ago, that the whole planet was wrapped around like an armor. That belt was huge, okay? And you can really see that in your life, like a year and a half, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, how that energy was just constricted all around. Enough of us have said yes to living in this other garden. Enough of us had made this choice that we now have gotten the belt down like this. But this belt is potent, it's angry, it's grumpy, and it's controlling. So if you do not understand yourself, you are locking in to this belt and you're surfing that wave, okay? All around the planet, left and right. In order to change your life, in order to understand your life, you got to spiral up and out of this belt, okay? This belt right now is everything. I've already walked it. We've already walked it. It's very much this external energy of fear, of seeking something outside of you to save. Now, the spiritual journey, okay, we can call it the spiritual journey. I just call it life at this point, but we'll call it spiritual just so the mind can identify. Most people come into the spiritual journey looking to be saved, wanting to be special, wanting to have a label, whatever the case may be. Great. Cool. If that's where you're at and you're in that belt, that's awesome, but you will stay in that belt. You have to move up and out to be the creator of your life and literally live your life outside this belt, because this belt always has a foundation and an undertone of one word. My favorite word that I keep to be used today: fear. Fear. Fear, 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 fear. So if you don't understand yourself, if you do not understand this left-hand side garden, you are munching on fear. And fear is pulling you back every single time. That then puts you in the victim, rescuer, abuser. Fear feeds frustration. Fear feeds hesitation. Fear feeds doubt. Fear feeds victim, rescuer, abuser. All of this is this energy, okay? Which then has a big kahuna, like kind of like coating on it. It looks like a big, huge like finale to it all, and it breeds jealousy, greed, and competition. That is this energy. And so many people are trapped in it. So many people are feeding it. And so many people know they're in it, but aren't quite sure how to get out of it. And it's so, so simple. Honestly, it's so simple. It's understanding that you are not in this robot, understanding that you have a garden, a beautiful garden over here on the right-hand side. And when you accept that there's a garden over here on the right-hand side, then that is a vision, that is a knowing, that is a daydream, that is reminding you what exists. It's reminding you of the possibilities. It's reminding you of what you are. It's showing you, you're accessing it, you're seeing it. Once you actually believe and know that these daydreams that you're having are your truth, you will follow them. This will begin your journey. This will get you out of this belt. Not looking to be saved, but actually going within yourself and seeing what this all is and following it and finding people that can help you sustain and grow and become in this garden, not finding people who you want to save you. If you want someone to save you, you're staying in the left-hand garden. You're staying in this belt. If you want to change your life, understand yourself, grow, apply consciousness, and accept that you are consciousness, you are this flower, you will, it's mind-blowing what you will do. But you have to choose it. Do you want to be saved or do you want to grow and become? Because being saved is that energy of literally everybody else is the problem. I'm hoping that you can tell me why they're the problem, why this happened to me, why, all the mind things to keep you in this Santa belt, left and right. That's not why we're here anymore. We are literally here to understand ourselves, to own that this garden on the left-hand side has happened, that we were born into it, and be able to transmute it, remove it, both cellularly and DNA, which you can do with support in understanding yourself. And it's like this fast, so fast, to then be able to sustain yourself over here in this garden and create and create and create. We are here now. This is the beginning of it all. So do you enjoy surfing in the Santa Belt? If you do, cool. But in the Santa Belt, it is rough. It is getting harder because, as you can see, the Santa Belt is getting smaller and the other energy is getting larger. But this Santa Belt, like I shared, is the one still controlling the planetary thoughts. It is still the one controlling the world. But one day it's not. And that's why we came here, and that's why we're all in this body of form. And know this, and really feel this. Because here's the thing. You know inside of yourself that this isn't your first rodeo. That this isn't your first time. There's been a million, quadrillion, so many other times. We don't even have to give a number to the amount of times that you have been here before. But here's the difference. You were here in the original seeding. You were here in the beginning of it all. We were here when we created this freaking garden. But here's the thing. We have never made it to this point. We have come, we have read our books, we have applied it sometimes, and all the things. But this moment right now, you and I looking at each other, you hearing me, wherever you're absorbing this, is the very first time that you've become aware, or even remotely wanted to become aware of the robot. You have never consciously seen it. You have never consciously wanted to do anything about it. And we've never been here where you can actually admit that it's true. And just take that in for our children, for our children's children, and for the remainder of your life. You get to dismantle and live free. That was the whole point. And that is why we're alive, to have freedom, abundance, and joy. And what the fuck did that mean years ago when I started saying that? I had no idea till literally this information and all I've walked and everything was freedom, abundance, and joy. Free of the robot, free of the old garden, and literally living as the joyful, abundant, freedom, loving, light being flower. The original source of creation, the original seed, that's who you are. You are a seed of creation that is planted in a garden that you can grow and sustain and become the flower of creation over and over and over and over again when you understand that you are not the robot. And the robot is not you. The robot is a program in which your flower was born into. And it cannot control you anymore. It does not have anything on who you are because you're a freaking original seed. Your original seed. It has done an amazing job. Let's give credit where credit is due because I'm all about that. And let's give credit to the program because it did amazing things. It blocked humanity from creating. It blocked you. It blocked me. It stopped us, and it did a good job. Round of applause for the program. But guess what? Gigs up, we see you. We see you. And we remember that we have our original seed. We know how to grow. And we know what our bloom is. We're remembering. And most of all, we remember what our root system does. We know that we have shit planted, and I'm just calling it shit because it's amazing shit. We have so much planted in this garden of our lives, anything, infinitely. And we just have to remember how to go out, access the seeds, take the action in density, you and I touching each other, to water it, to make it happen. And instantly, we're creating our reality. Yes, bigger things like a house, moving, whatever the case may be, might take a little bit of action and what else? Trust and dedication, but it will manifest out of your portal into your bloom. It will. It cannot not, because this is creation. If you look, we're coming into June and July. If you have gardens, and I have a big, beautiful one out here, when I planted those seeds in March, I'm not going to lie, there was a hot moment. The very first time I've ever planted a garden, I was like, wow, are these flowers actually really, truly going to grow? They have grown so abundantly, so mind-blowing. And every day when I'm out there watering it, I'm like, this is so fucking unreal. This is our work. This is our life. This is our truth. That one seed, all it needed was to remember who it was, and it created. It created. One seed. And it created, and it continues to create. And that's you.